everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Powerful Stuff, your favorite place for inner connection with yourself and outer connection with everyone else. And today's episode is going to be something that I've heard a lot of people talk about recently, clients, friends, and that is calling in the one. I wanted to share with you guys 3 things I did the year that I called in Spencer. And I've talked about this in various ways on the podcast, but I'm going to break it into the 3 things that worked for me. They might be different for you. Consider it like a buffet, but also like the mindset, the intention behind these 3 things, that whether you're wanting to call in a partner, whether romantic, a business partner, a new community, it's just a new thing. These are the things that I did to make shift happen, as they say. And I love you guys so much because I am re-recording this entire episode. I recorded it last night and I was like, done. It's in the bag. That was such a good one. Brought my A game and then went to edit it and there was no sound because the Shure mic, bless its heart, was not all the way plugged in. But you know what they say, guys? Second time's a charm. And we're going to have at it again and it's going to be powerful to say the least. As you might know, my voice is a little wee bit sore coming back from Sweden. I've been having some Robitussin cough syrup. And it was funny because I went for a workout today at F45 and today is 7/7, the manifestation portal. And they were playing this like song and the guy mentions Robitussin in it. And I'm like, what are the odds? Because I literally never think of Robitussin. And here I am having some and it being mentioned on the loudspeaker. What are the odds? Is it a sign that all my manifestations are coming true? You know what? The signs are what we make it, guys. And I'm choosing to say yes. And also for your manifestations as well. But all of that's to say, let's talk about what I already manifested, which is my husband, Spencer. Although if you were to ask him, he would be like, what? I manifested you. I have agency too. Okay. That's cute. No, I'm joking. We both manifested each other. But the point is, when you want to call in the one, and I'm going to say like, I'm going to refer to it romantically today, but again, insert blank, insert your business partner, insert community, your bestie, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's like we intellectually declare it and we're like, I know I want this. But then we act in unsavory ways that actually self-sabotage because we intellectually, our adult self says we know we want it, but maybe our younger self isn't on board. Maybe they're afraid of deep intimacy. They're afraid of actually really being rejected. And so that's why they keep going after the emotionally unavailable people because it's actually safe because then they actually get to be like, oh, what a dick. It didn't work out, versus being seen and really risking having your heart broken by someone you truly love. Or maybe your younger self is scared because you've become set in your ways and it's so fun and easy to go on, or not always fun and easy, but to do coaching experiences or retreats or plant medicine ceremonies or whatever it might be and have all these breakthroughs about yourself and the kind of partner you want. But then when you're in a situationship or you're on a date, you really have to walk the fire and you're like, hold up, this is scary, right? Because having a partner or dating is like emotional and spiritual development on steroids. It just like holds a mirror to all your shit. And you are forced to walk the motherfucking fire and it is hot. But we do it and we grow from it and it's powerful. So all of that's to say, the other reason that you might not is because, or you might say you want it and not do it is because your younger self is afraid of being abandoned by you. And they're afraid that, if you do find someone, you might love them more and abandon your inner child and not give them attention. And it's kind of like if you view your inner child as your literal child and like your future partner as their step parent, you're like, well, what if they go off and love the partner and the partner doesn't prioritize the inner child? And then you're giving all the attention to the partner and the inner child feels abandoned, right? So when we're thinking about dating, we also kind of want to think about like they're going to be the step parent to our inner child. And we are going to be the step parent to their inner child. And so how can we make our inner child feel prioritized? And how can we tell our younger self, I love you so much. I'm not going anywhere no matter what. And I'm only going to date this person if they make you feel safe. And I'm going to do everything I can to make you feel safe. But I'm not going anywhere. And just because I'm dating them doesn't mean I'm going to abandon you. It's actually going to be, we're going to be a blended family. That's the vibe. However, like for years before I met Spencer, I wanted my soulmate, but I didn't. Sometimes I would even be like, will this even happen for me? because I've been single forever, or, the LA dating scene sucks. Or when I was living in London, it was like the London dating scene sucks. There's always a reason in the different cities, and they each have their own reasons why the dating scene sucks, right? In New York, people say it's like people view it as disposable. There's so many people coming and going. There's an abundance of options. In LA, it's like Peter Pan syndrome or whatever it might be. And all of that's to say, each city always has their things, right? There's always reasons to focus on the negative. And if you focus on the negative, you'll find more negative, right? Like affirmation bias or confirmation bias. And all of that's to say, a few years before I met Spencer, I had been doing some work on myself. And in some ways, like, the accumulation to meeting our partner doesn't happen overnight. It's like many years over time that reaches that watershed point of who we're ready to call in. But the years before I said I wanted a partner, and a partner who treated me better, as Rufus Soul would say, but I was acting in ways that didn't support that, right? I wasn't fully showing up for myself. It was being not aligned with myself. I was afraid to lose my founder identity, doing something that was not in full alignment, in the end with my founder identity when I was running an alcoholic kombucha company. And so if we're not in alignment in one area, it kind of blocks the alignment in other areas, like as within, so without. And I was also choosing these guys that deep down kind of help perpetuate the cycle of a guy being emotionally unavailable, me trying to go after him to prove my worth, right? And giving way too much too soon, like giving the pigeon adjustment, the tarot card reading, very Venice Meredith, to the guy, like laying it all out on the table, and like it being so easy for him, and it also not seeming like I value myself if he's giving me breadcrumbs. And I'm like, I'm every woman, it's all in me. And not him not having to work for it. And then he would freak out, and then I would give him an ultimatum, and that would freak him out even more. And then it would prove that I'm not enough, which like helped little Meredith be like, great, it's just the two of us. Um, and so all of that to say, I kept doing that. So even though intellectually a lot of us can say, oh, I'm ready to call in my person, but then you still see sometimes yourself or your friends or other people still going after the same type of person, or still playing it safe with the same type of archetype that they're dating, or the same kind of behavior where you maybe fall in head over heels really quickly, and then and really infatuated, and then like freak out, like we all have our little patterns. So the first thing I did, all of that is to say, guys, and I was joking with my friend Abby today. We went on a little walk. That I say all of that's to say so many times. If this podcast wasn't called Powerful Stuff, it'd be called All That's to Say, or the last thing I'll say, because it's never the last thing. But anyways, all of that's to say, the first thing I did was do read Existential Kink, which I've talked about a million times on this podcast. Shout out Carolyn Elliott if you're listening. But it's all about how we keep perpetuating things we say we want to avoid, our shadow self, right? She has this quote by Carl Jung: until we make the subconscious conscious, it will rule our lives and we will call it fate. So Existential Kink is all about owning and taking a radical look in the mirror of all the things we are doing to perpetuate the things we say we want to avoid. Okay, I say that I want to attract an emotionally available guy. Why do I keep going for these guys that are super hot, good on paper, usually foreign? Spencer's also foreign. He's Canadian, but besides the point. But kind of keep myself in these boom or bust cycles, not also communicating and voicing my truth because I want to be the cool girl, don't want to rock the boat, afraid that he won't actually want to commit. And so, yeah, like I had to take a hard look in the mirror for Existential Kink and own that shadow side of me, and own those patterns in dating, and also how I was playing small and playing not enough in other patterns within that, like as I was talking about with like my founder identity, and feeling like left out of or not enough for like certain cliques or like peripheral friends in Venice at the time, where I wanted to prove that I was cool, right? So not just in the dating area, but also taking an honest look at the other areas of my life where that was happening and bringing love to that Meredith. Okay, part of me loves feeling like the victim. Part of me loves feeling like I don't belong and I'm the Lone Ranger, because that's part of how my identity was in 6th grade when I went from a private school to a public school. And, it's like I created some of my best work when I was a loner. And that's when I started writing for the Houston Chronicle and submitting things to Houston CBS, because I was like, I need to prove my worth outside of the popular crew. So it did serve me in some ways, right? To be the loner, to not belong, to be the odd one out, to not be in the cool group. But maybe it's also in some ways a safety blanket. So I owned and accepted and loved that part of myself during this existential kink exploration of okay, no matter what you do, Meredith, or how cringe you are, or these guys that you go after, or how you act, I'm not going anywhere, and I fucking love you no matter what. And that is the number one. And also a fun thing that I have the ladies of the upgrade do in our upgrade course during our shadow week is have them write a Love Island or Love is Blind bio for their shadow side, just making it cheeky and fun, making the self-development not have to be so serious and shameful and heavy. Of this is Meredith. She just loves, this is my shadow side bio. She just loves giving her power away to emotionally unavailable guys that don't even know they have it, because then she gets to be the victim and feel powerless, and also distract herself from her actual big creative goals and feeling worthy of unconditional love in the process. Welcome to the show, Meredith. So I would encourage you for this step one is what are the patterns getting in the way that you you know that you say you want to avoid, but you're not being honest with yourself and you're still acting in a way that's not in alignment with who you want to call in. So that would be step one. What are those patterns? You can even ask, and I did this for my 30th, y'all. I sent an email to 30 people in my life, from, past roommates and friends to past mentors, and was like, for my 30th, I would love your feedback on one or two things that I do that get in the way of myself as somebody who loves me and who I respect. You won't hurt my feelings, and I would love to hear what you have to say. And yeah, you can ask friends and family for that kind of feedback, because oftentimes we think other people can't tell, but they can totally tell. And then it's just hits us different, just hits different. It's like a splash of water to the face when you get those messages back from people that you think you've been so secretive about these patterns, or maybe you haven't really acknowledged it and other people are acknowledging it too. And you're like, oh shit. So that's how you can apply existential kink. Definitely say read the book, but then also step one, take stock of what you're doing that's getting in the way of what you say you want. How are you not acting in alignment, and why? Why are you doing that? Why do you think your shadow side is scared or wants to stay comfortable? And how can you bring compassion and love and forgiveness to that side of yourself so then you can fix it? Okay. The second thing I did, guys, is I went to the Hoffman process. The Hoffman process, as I've said on this podcast before, is a 1-week powerful process. Turn in your phone out in nature to reparent your inner child, to look at all the patterns that you've accrued throughout childhood and still exist in your adult life, and to literally reparent them to be the person that you're ready to be in your adult life. Because now we've outgrown our patterns that at one point in time we felt kept us safe, but now they're holding us back. And I remember calling Hoffman, because the wait list is always 6 months, and I was 29, and my birthday's in March, and I wouldn't have gone until September, but I'm like, I turned 30 in 2 weeks. Can you please fit me in? And they called me the next week. Right? They're like, we have a spot next week. And I'm like, I'll take it. And I went the week before my 30th. And the Hoffman process was fundamental for me. I talk about it all the time. I use so many Hoffman tools in my coaching. It's not even funny. And the cool thing about it is, similar to existential kink, it kind of furthered that work and helped me clarify not only how am I holding myself back, but why am I doing it? Why am I operating from this lens of I am not enough? How do I keep perpetuating that in different ways? And what does little Meredith need from me to trust me to break that cycle? It showed me how to break cycles and how to start acting in a way of I am enough. For example, in the feedback loop that I talked to you guys about, of the I am not enough feedback loop. The negative version is like, I am not enough. The trigger is like, I find a guy that, you know, isn't emotionally available, or maybe let's say he, in an early situationship or dating, he takes like longer to respond. And in that situation, I might freak out or be passive aggressive or like pose an ultimatum, and then he freaks out and then goes away. And then that makes me believe that I'm not enough. But Hoffman showed me how to pause, create space between I am not enough and like my belief around that, and help little Meredith first and foremost heal from that, like helped me infuse self-compassion into all these patterns and self-forgiveness, but then helped me also see the positive feedback loop. So the opposite of I'm not enough is I am enough. So let's say the trigger remains the same of like a guy takes whatever, a longer amount of time to respond. Meredith, who knows she's enough, instead of responding with fear or like, why does this always happen? Or he's losing interest, might just be curious, um, and patient, and might have a like, yeah, assume best intentions. And then eventually, if it keeps happening, having a curious conversation of like, is this something that you're still open to exploring without any attachment or defensiveness or whatever? Um, and then reinforcing I am enough, right? And not being afraid to have the conversation or hear him say I'm not interested, but also not freaking out or being passive aggressive or not saying what I need to say. So that's just a micro example. So Hoffman was the second thing I did, like looking at my shit, clearing it out, and also giving myself self-compassion and grace. And I think that really helps. Like if you're going to distill it down to step 2, if you don't go to Hoffman, it's like, after we've looked at the patterns, what does the opposite, more empowered pattern look like that you do want to bring into your next relationship? And how can you forgive yourself for all the cringe moments, all the things you've done in the past, and be compassionate with yourself? And the second step is really letting your inner child know that you're not going anywhere, writing them a letter, acknowledging all the hurt, the fears of abandonment, the fears of intimacy, and letting them know I've got you no matter what. Our person is out there. I trust it. I know it. I know it. Um, the then, and I shit you not, and I always say this, you know, plant medicine retreats, Hoffman, all these things are great to get our clarity. But if we, as soon as we get to the outside world, right, shit hits the fan before we expand, and we are forced to test it. We are forced to put our money where our mouth is, because it's nice to theoretically say that feedback loop, but how I actually break it, that's the awareness piece. How I break it is the action. Awareness plus action equals, say it with me, change. And so all of that is to say, I, after Hoffman, had to put my money where my mouth is, where there was this person that I was interested in, but it was kind of like cat and mouse, like breadcrumbs. Was he flirting? Wasn't he flirting? And the old Meredith would have gone on forever with this, living from text to text, analyzing with the BFFs. But eventually I was like, hey, I'm curious, like, what is your intention here? Is like this something that you want to pursue romantically? And I had to sit through the discomfort of hearing like, no, in fact, he wasn't interested. Um, and it was so like ripping a band-aid off, but it felt so liberating on the other side. It felt like Bruce Almighty of like, I got the power. And just knowing that I wasn't going to abandon myself and that I could face that rejection. And rejection is actually not rejection, it's redirection. But doing the uncomfortable thing and breaking the feedback loop, I felt like a second wind. I can't even tell you. And by closing that, it opened a space for Spencer. And I think a lot of us say that we want a partner, but then we leave all these maybe doors open instead of like cutting the energetic ties with them, which actually drain our energy and show the universe actually we're not ready for that, because we're like hoping that we can have all of our options and eat them too, as they say, until the right person comes along, versus like, actually, this is not like the frequency I want to be operating on. This is not my level of worth. And I am going to have a conversation and either clear it out or proceed accordingly. And I do think that that's so powerful. And I tell a lot of my clients this when they kind of keep the doors open for the maybes that don't treat them well or aren't consistent. I'm like, what message are you sending to the universe? If you do want somebody who's genuinely going to show up for you and be like your 110%, you are not sending that person the message that you are high value by keeping this other door open just in case, because you think that maybe, what if I can't do better, right? It's like, well, if you think that, that's what it is, right? Whatever you believe you are, like, that's what it is. You teach other people how to treat you. So that's my little bit of tough love for old Meredith and for you. So for Hoffman, it's like, yeah, taking what you learned from existential kink, what we talked about of the patterns, what is the more empowered version, and actually putting your money where your mouth is. And that might mean you forego a lot of options, right? It might mean before you were used to having all these like lower quality dates or situationships. My friend Nara once told me when I was single, sometimes the property value is so high that there are no bidders. But that doesn't mean you're going to lower the property value just so someone will buy it quickly. You're like, no, this house is worth $5 million. I'm going to wait for someone who can pay $5 million. Might take a little longer, but I know they're out there, right? And that's the same thing with dating. It's like we might have fewer options, but it doesn't mean our person isn't out there. And we're going to be so fucking glad we didn't settle. And they're going to be so fucking glad we didn't settle. And we're going to be so fucking glad that they didn't settle. Wow. And so the third thing I did, the third book, and then I'll end with a few little extra little tidbits, if you will. But the third thing I did, the third book, I did Existential Kink, cleared out those patterns with Hoffman. And step 2, gave myself the self-compassion. And step 3, to really fucking supercharge it, is I read 7 Weeks to Calling in the One. I recommend this book to everybody. I read it twice, actually, the year that I met Spencer, because sometimes I kind of glazed through it the first time and would start and stop it and sometimes stop it. And sometimes I have clients who like start it as well and then stop in the middle and say like, oh, I never finished it, or it's just shitting. It is shitting on my shelf. It is sitting on myself. So, oh my God, it is sitting on my shelf. And it just kind of hits us when we need to hear it again. Sometimes we need to have that first seed planted and then really let it grow. And that was me. I read it after Hoffman with all this newfound knowledge and awareness on myself. And Calling in the One really helps you become the person that you're ready to attract. And so it has exercises, not just to make the list of like, some of these dating books are like, here's how to attract a high value man or whatever. It's like, actually, okay, you say you want this type of person and you want this type of relationship. How do you want to feel in it? And then how can you give yourself that feeling right now? Because that is magnetic. So it's not waiting for it to happen. It's like you being the thing and doing the thing to call that person in. And it just reminds me of my song I wrote 2 years before I met Spencer, Calling in You, which is like, I'm calling in you. Are you calling in me? If you only knew how good life to be, how good life could be, you'll see you and me. And it's this idea of like, my life is great. I'm so proud of my life. I am a complete person, right? I'm not like missing a piece for my person. I am complete. I'm making myself happy. I am a thriving single parent to my inner child. And when you come along, it's going to be that much more magical together. Like, I have my life, I have my community, I feel good. And we are only going to add to each other's life. Of course, there will be challenges and things that come up where we learn, we grow together, right? And I like to ask those questions at the beginning of a relationship, assessing, is this person good to keep proceeding with? Are we growing together? Can we communicate? Are we having fun? Growing together, communicating, having fun. Anyways, so Calling in the One really helps you be like, okay, how do I want to feel with this person and how can I be that for myself now? So now that I've addressed my radical responsibility of patterns that are getting in the way, now that I've done the work on kind of reparenting my inner child, being a fucking awesome single parent to them, how can I make my life so amazing for myself and them that I am ready to become what I want to attract? And that is going to be the magnetic thing. And so I talk about this all the time. I made an ideal scene. We are right in the middle, like a sun, and then the rays, these things all in the present tense. We are waking up so excited to start the day together. We are so present with how we start the day together. We are planning adventures for each other and each other's friends. Like, all the things that I felt in a verb, like the feeling of how I'm doing them with my partner. And then I reverse engineered that. And I was like, how can I start being this for myself right now? So the classic example that I always use is we are, waking up in bed together, so present. At the time, I was going to bed with my phone in my room, scrolling. Sue me, the social media police, come arrest me. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do it. I'm not guilty anymore. So I bought an alarm clock. Shout out to my Alexa alarm clock who wakes me up to Vance Joy or Taylor Swift. And I bought my alarm clock and started ending the night in gratitude, buying my one line a day. So I would write the things that I was grateful for that day, or in the morning, I would meditate before I checked my phone, creating the presence with myself that I would want to have with a partner, that when a partner came, I would be so delighted to have that with them. So that's how you can do your step 3, reading the book, Calling in the One, and making your ideal scene and being like, how can I be this for myself right now? If it's like we are planning adventures for each other's friends, like plan an adventure for your friends, take yourself on a date night, take a friend on a date night, like do these things that you would want to be doing with a partner and start like cultivating that energy like right now. And so I was doing that, and that was magnetic for myself. And the author also talks about like if you have a bed against the wall, it's like, well, what if a partner was there? Like move your bed to the middle of the room, get an extra nightstand so you both have your own nightstand, or create some space in your closet for their clothes. Just that mindset of like, I'm welcoming them in. And those are my 3 steps. So radical responsibility on patterns. Where am I getting in the way of what I say I want? Self-forgiveness, self-compassion, right? And stepping into the new patterns, the new empowered belief of I am enough, I do deserve unconditional love. And then step 3 is becoming what you're ready to attract. How can you start living that ideal scene right now? And then from there, from that space, I will say a few other things that help. Number 1, consistency. Like you have to trust in what Lacey Phillips, the premier manifestation coach, calls the magic dark. The magic dark is when you are doing all of these things, but you're not seeing results. So then you're like, oh, maybe change isn't possible. Never mind. And you drop down to your lower beliefs, to your lower older stories, because it's so easy. It's like junk food. And then you kind of feel shitty doing it. And you're like, why am I believing these older stories? I just did all this work. And it's so hard in the moment to be like, no, actually, I'm going to double down on my self-worth. And when you double down on your self-worth in those magic dark moments, when you're not getting any external validation that this thing is working, guess what? Those are the times that you are magnetic, because you are showing yourself, even if no one else validates me, I am validating me, and I know I deserve this, and I'm going to keep going. And so I get a lot of things from clients where they're like, oh, I haven't heard any results and I'm down on myself and I actually like don't belong and da, da, da. And I love them and bless like us all, because we've all been there, myself included. It's a constant practice and reminding ourselves. But it's like, okay, actually, this is the time where you need to give yourself a little loving, tough love of like, okay, that's an old story, right? It still might be in the car with me, but it doesn't have to be in the driver's seat. Move it to the passenger seat. And it's like, okay, get that, you're an old story. You like to be here to keep me safe because, um, shit hits the fan right before we expand, or the greater the resistance, the greater the awakening. It's that old me being like, oh no, I'm about to expand or have unconditional love. This is scary. Remember all these old stories of how you don't belong and how you don't deserve it. But it's like, bless that little part of yourself, like love your shadow, don't shame it, move it to the passenger seat and be like, I love you. And we know that's not true. And here's all this evidence to support otherwise. So I get it. Thank you for sharing. And we're going to continue on going. So, consistency, doing it even when you're not getting results. Also, you might get some tests. Lacey Phillips talks about tests from the universe. And this is so true. As I said, I got some tests right after Hoffman with like situationships or people that were great on paper. And I had to release those. And I even got tests in my professional life, right? Where it was like either I continue at a crossroads with my company, either I double down on fundraising and keep going, even though I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do in my heart, or I did the hard thing and told all my investors I was shutting the company down. And it would be hard to imagine meeting my life partner while I was so out of alignment in my professional life and purpose. Like it does and can happen, but it's like really, really hard also, especially in the early stages of it. Because if you're not living in alignment in one area, it does like seep into other areas. So that other test I had to face that year was shutting down my business and being honest with myself of like letting my founder identity fall away, letting myself have those hard conversations with my investors and my mentors. And I say this, and I've said it on the pod before, but the week that I did that, I met my partner, Spencer. And it was like, as soon as I let go of what wasn't aligned, though what was aligned was waiting to come in. So that was the other thing is, clearing out the things that aren't aligned in all areas, doing our spring cleaning, if you will. And then the last little thing is like with manifestation, I say drop expectation, hold the vibration. Like drop expectation of how or when the person's going to come in or what that looks like. And I'll give you a few examples of this. So, as you might have heard me say before, I always, before Spencer would say, I'm just waiting for my Vance Joy. Vance Joy is like a singer. He sings Riptide, like lady coming down to the Riptide. Super hot Australian guy. Shout out Vance Joy. Saw him at Erewhon 2 years before I met Spencer. And at first I took it as a literal sign of like, I am meant to be with Vance Joy because he's my celebrity crush. And I saw him at Erewhon and I manifested him. And then I wrote that song, Calling in You, about knowing that your person is out there and are they thinking about you the way you're thinking about them, but continuing to live your awesome life until you're ready to meet again. And it turns out that Vance Joy was a symbol, a symbol like don't settle, but don't get too attached to it literally being the Vance Joy. Because Spencer was my Vance Joy. So Vance Joy was there to remind me, like, don't settle, you're on your path, keep going. But it wasn't him. It wasn't Vance Joy literally that I was meant to end up with. And when Spencer proposed to me, he ended up playing my Spotify version of Calling in You as he walked back from the proposal, and all of our friends were throwing lavender on us. And it was really beautiful. TBT, special memories. So not being attached to who it is or what it looks like or the timing. And the second iteration I'll give of that is like getting out of your usual checklist or routine. Like I've heard a lot of clients say, and myself included in the past, like my partner needs to have this and we need to live in the same city and XYZ and be in this exact same stage of our life. And the thing is, we're all learning and growing when we meet each other. And also, if you meet the right person, you're going to make it work, even if it feels like the wrong time. I've had dates with guys who live 1 mile radius of me, and then we like don't see each other for months because it's like, as the saying goes, if he wanted to, he would, as any one of us. So I would remove like the geographic or the time or the age like limits that you're placing on this person and just stay open to possibilities. Because when we start to control or place expectations, we actually start to kill the magic of the moment. You need to like give it space to grow and flourish like a flower opening its petals. And with Spencer, I had downloaded Hinge the week I shut down my company because I was like, I just need to go on a date. And that's another thing too, because I was like, oh, Hinge is I'm not going to meet my partner on an app. And I would have like a sour attitude about it or say like the LA dating scene sucks. And again, what you say, you get more of. So I stopped talking like that. And I was like, my person's out there, whether they're in LA or who knows. And I'm going to download Hinge, go on a few dates and maybe take a break from it and meet people in IRL, but be open to the different ways I could meet someone. Maybe it's through a friend. But I removed my like, I'm not going to meet anyone through a dating app energy. Like all of my little like, snooty like whatevers. So downloaded Hinge and then realized he was just passing through LA. He was motorcycling from Canada to Argentina. And I almost didn't go on the date because when I realized that, because I was like, well, what's the point? He doesn't live in LA. There's no way we would date. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on the date. This is actually good for me because I would usually size a guy up. Is he husband material? Da, da, da. If like he lived in LA and, whatever. So I was like, this is good for me because I'll just go on the date and I won't overanalyze too much if it's going to work out or not. And so I went on the date and like it was great. And I didn't have any expectations and I didn't think I would see him again. And then I kept saying yes to opportunity without writing it off and without putting too much pressure on it. It was kind of like this Goldilocks equation of just like staying open, staying curious. And when he messaged me, because he went to Burning Man after that, the Renegade Burn, and then was passing back through LA, he's like, do you want to go on the back of my motorcycle as I travel through Baja, California? And obviously, like I just started my coaching business after shutting down my company. And I told my mom this long-haired, bearded man who I met on Hinge wanted to take me across the border to Mexico motorcycling. And she's like, are you crazy? So I didn't operate in a black or white of fully saying no to his offer. That was maybe a little too much for me to say yes to at the time, but I met him with a compromise. And I was like, because I still did want to see him. So I was like, well, what if we just did Joshua Tree and did a little like night in Joshua Tree? So we ended up doing that instead. And he crashed his motorcycle on the way to see me. And I said, we could drive to Joshua Tree instead. And you could stay at my house while you get your bike fixed. And then one 2 extra days turned into a month and we fell in love. And then, of course, I did end up meeting him in Mexico for motorcycling on his journey. in Colombia and Chile, Argentina was on the back of his motorcycle when he reached Argentina. And then he moved to LA and we figured it out, and the rest is history. And now we're married. So all of that's to say, it was like saying yes and remaining curious and not being like, oh, well, he doesn't live here, so what's the point? Or he's not in this stage of his life, so what's the point? Or whatever it might have been, right? And on his end, he was like, oh, I didn't think I would be in a long distance relationship while I was traveling, because that had happened once before with an ex-girlfriend who was really possessive, and he had like a traumatic experience from that. And so he allowed it to be like, well, what if this time is different? Well, what if I can be even more free with someone in a long distance relationship, right? So he had to remain open and curious from his end too. And we both had to communicate. We communicated our intentions, we communicated our fears, we communicated our boundaries. And as long as it still was fun, we kept taking the next step and then the next step without planning too much, or like, where's this going? Or I'm only going to go to Joshua Tree with you if you want to date me. You know, it's like you have to have some vulnerability and some uncertainty to let it grow. As Osho says, if you love a flower, don't pick it, let it grow. So I won't go too much more into our actual relationship because I've done that with Spencer before on the pod, and we'll do another one as an actual couple. But those are the key elements that I did to calling in my person. And again, you can do this to call in the next chapter of your life, whatever the next thing is you're calling in. It doesn't have to be romantic. As a recap, question number 1, what is the thing that you're doing to get in the way of yourself that you say you want, but you're actually acting in the opposite? How are you self-sabotaging? Can you ask people in your life how you're self-sabotaging? Are you not acting in alignment? Step 2 is, what is the aligned version of that? What cycle needs to be broken? How are you showing up instead? And how can you give your younger inner child reassurance that you love them no matter what? You forgive yourself for what's already been done, or how you've already acted, or how you've made yourself feel. And how are you going to act instead? And what are ways you can put your money where your mouth is? Step 3 is becoming what you're ready to attract. So that thing that you so deeply want or desire, how can you start doing those things right now? And then trusting in the consistency, showing up even when you're not getting the external validation or results, trusting in the curiosity and the openness, and not being attached to the when or the how or having control or expectation, but being open. Okay, so that being said, guys, let's end with a brief little meditation. So closing your eyes, taking a deep breath in. As always, exhale it out, sigh it out. Anything you're ready to call in, breathe in. Exhale, sending it to your body, softening your shoulders, your jaw, your hips, your toes. And then third and deepest breath in. And exhale, breathing a golden light into your heart space as if you're softly landing like a feather into this golden chamber of your heart. And as you sit in your golden chamber of your heart, starting to ask yourself to show you the deepest desire of that person, that partnership you're ready for, that you're ready to call in. How you just know it in your bones. And how will it feel waking up with this person? Waking up knowing you found each other, that you see each other at your best, you hold each other at your worst. How will that morning feel? Presence, connection, love. And how do you feel it enhance every other part of your day as you work or create? How it gives you this extra pep in your step, feeling what's possible. And brings even more brightness to the words you speak to yourself and to others. How does it feel as you consider all your other relationships, your friendships, your community, your family? How does it make you feel even more connected to those people? As it opens up your world to their friends, their family. How are you feeling in these quiet moments with your partner? What kind of things are you doing together? Things are you discussing? Things you're doing to surprise and delight the other? And how is it making you feel just in your own relationship to yourself? How you maintain that independence, the things that you love, that love connection you have with yourself? And in this vision, imagine seeing your younger child and how they feel safe and loved and happy and trusting with you, with your partner. And just asking your younger child, your inner self, what they need from you to step into this vision. What do they need to trust? Letting them know you can do that. You love them unconditionally. You're not going anywhere. And as you hug them, feeling them relax into you, trusting that. And as you pull away, noticing they've morphed into your highest self, your all knowing self, who knows that this is the last sacred time before you call in this thing. That this last sacred time, we don't know how long, but it's your last time with yourself before your partner comes in. And asking your highest self how to make the most of this time. What is a piece of wisdom? Trusting that, and as you hug them, feeling that reverberate through your body, your toes, your nose, your head. Feeling your highest self, your inner child with you all at once, knowing they'll be there with you when you're single. They'll be there with you when you're with this person. They're always with you. And then just getting a glimpse of the energy of the inner child of your future partner, letting them know that you love them, you're doing the work to be able to love them unconditionally as well. And then feeling the presence of the highest self of your partner, knowing that they're very proud of you for all the work you're doing on yourself right now, and just feeling their highest self and inner child with your highest self and inner child with you right here, breathing it in. And then taking a deep breath, exhale, let it go. One more breath in, feeling it fully. And then exhale, let it go. Wow, guys, that's so powerful. So just taking some time now, writing down what you saw. Maybe you do that ideal scene, and maybe you write a letter from your highest self to your current self, letting yourself know that you're so proud of you and know like all this great stuff to come, to just keep going. And when those old stories come up, lovingly give them a hug and remind them of the truth of what is, and giving your inner child a little letter of how much you love them and how you're not going anywhere. Maybe you also write a letter to your inner child, or the inner child of your partner. Like, here's all the work I'm doing. I'm so excited to meet you. And hearing maybe a dialogue from their highest self. So I'm so excited. Please let me know what you end up calling in, y'all. And also, we have some exciting IRL events for Powerful Stuff. We have our Music Comedy Connection Night, July 18th at Moss. These do sell out, so do get your tickets. And that morning, we also have our best morning ever. So I would love to see you at either of them. And I will see you next week for more Powerful Stuff. Hey, you. Thank you for coming on this powerful journey with me. I hope it was as powerful for you as it was for me. And if it was, it would mean the world to me if you rate, review, and subscribe to Powerful Stuff so I can keep bringing you the goods. We can keep going on this transformative journey together. And if there's powerful stuff that you want to share with me, with the Powerful Stuff community, tag us on Instagram at That's Powerful Stuff or the Meredith Baker. And I look forward to seeing you next week for more Powerful Stuff.